Module 2 is what we govern against the harms. This module is what we govern toward the principles of trustworthy AI. Think of these as the compass that gives the whole governance effort its direction. There's a neat relationship between the last module and this one. Every principle is the positive mirror of a harm. Bias becomes the principle of fairness. Opacity becomes transparency. An unsafe system becomes robustness. An unaccountable one becomes accountability. So if Module 2 gave you the list of things that go wrong, this module just flips each of them over to define what right looks like. Principles are the destination, the target that governance steers toward. Hold that framing, and the 8 principles we're about to cover will feel less like a vocabulary list and more like a map. Here's something genuinely encouraging. Over the past several years, the world has produced hundreds of AI ethics documents from the OECD, UNESCO, the EU, NIST, professional bodies, national governments, and the big technology companies. And when researchers compared them, they found something striking: they nearly all converge on the same short handful of principles. There's broad global agreement on what trustworthy AI means. The disagreement, and it's a real one, isn't about the principles themselves. It's about the how. How do you actually measure fairness? How much transparency is enough? That gap between agreement on principles and difficulty in practice is the theme of this whole module. If you learn one canonical set of principles, make it the OECD AI Principles. Adopted in 2019, updated in 2024, and backed by more than 47 countries, they were the first intergovernmental standard on AI. There are 5 values-based pillars. 1. Inclusive growth, sustainable development, and well-being. 2. Respect for human rights and democratic values, which includes fairness and privacy. 3. Transparency and explainability. 4. Robustness, security, and safety. And 5. Accountability. Why memorize these? Because they're the backbone that almost every later law and framework echoes. When you read the EU AI Act or the NIST framework, you'll keep hearing these same 5 themes. The OECD set the template. The other landmark instrument is the UNESCO Recommendation on the Ethics of AI, adopted in 2021 by more than 190 member states, which makes it the most broadly adopted AI ethics instrument in the world. 2 things make it distinctive. First, its emphasis: human rights and human dignity, the environment, and gender equality, with a genuinely global lens that includes the global south, not just wealthy Western nations. And second, it pushed beyond principles toward implementation. It introduced practical tools like a readiness assessment and an ethical impact assessment. So where the OECD set the principles, UNESCO started building the bridge toward actually doing something about them. Let me give you the working set, the 8 principles this course will actually operationalize. Fairness, no unjustified discrimination. Transparency, openness about where and how AI is used. Explainability, decisions can be understood. Accountability, a human or organization is answerable. Human oversight, meaningful human control. Robustness and safety, it works reliably and fails safely. Privacy, data rights are respected. And contestability, people affected can challenge the outcome. Memorize these 8. I mean it, because every framework and every law you meet from here on is just a different arrangement of this same core set. Learn them once, and the rest is recognition. Now the hardest principle, the one that breaks people's intuitions: fairness is not one thing. It sounds like it should be obvious, just be fair. But there are multiple, competing definitions. Group fairness says, outcomes, or error rates, should be equal across groups, men and women selected at similar rates. Individual fairness says, similar individuals should be treated similarly. And here's the uncomfortable mathematical fact: it has been proven that you cannot satisfy all the major fairness definitions at the same time. Improving one can mathematically worsen another. So fairness is not a default setting you switch on. It's a choice. And because it's a choice, governance requires you to make it openly, justify why, and document it. We'll see exactly this when Helios has to tune its hiring tool. People use transparency and explainability as synonyms. They're not, and the distinction matters. Transparency is about the system, being open that AI is being used at all, on what kind of data, with what known limitations, disclosed to users, to regulators, to the public. Explainability is about a specific decision, being able to tell the affected person why this particular outcome happened, why your loan, specifically, was declined. One operates at the level of the system, the other at the level of the individual decision. And you need both. A system can be transparent in general, yes, we use AI in lending, and still completely fail to explain why one particular applicant was rejected. Accountability rests on one non-negotiable idea: a human or an organization is always answerable. AI is never the responsible party. The algorithm did it is not a defense anyone accepts, not regulators, not courts, not customers. So accountability means a named owner, a governance body, oversight at the decision points, and a route to recourse. Closely tied to this is human oversight, but here's the catch: oversight only counts if it's meaningful. A human who clicks approve on 100 AI decisions an hour, with no real ability to understand or overrule them, is a rubber stamp, not oversight. Real oversight means the reviewer has the authority, the information, and the time to actually say no to the machine. Let's group the remaining four, 2 about the system and 2 about the people. Robustness: the system performs reliably, resists manipulation, and degrades gracefully rather than failing catastrophically. Safety: when it does fail, it fails without causing harm. Then the people-facing pair. Privacy: a lawful basis for data minimization, and respect for individuals' data rights. And contestability: a genuine, usable route for an affected person to question and appeal an AI-driven outcome. Contestability is the one organizations forget most often: they build the AI decision but never build the appeal path. A trustworthy system always leaves people a door to knock on. Now the central challenge of this entire field, in one image. On one cliff stand the principles: AI should be fair. On the far cliff stands practice: which fairness metric, measured how, mitigated by whom, and evidenced with what documentation. Between them is a wide chasm. Principles are easy to write and genuinely hard to do. Everyone's corporate website says their AI is fair and responsible. Almost none of them can tell you the operational definition they used or show you the evidence. Bridging that chasm, turning should into a measured, documented control, is precisely what the frameworks, programs, and controls in the rest of this course are for. Watch this play out at Helios. Helios does the easy part first. It adopts a nice set of AI principles: fairness, transparency, human oversight, and so on. A poster on the wall. But then those principles meet the actual hiring tool, and the fairness line immediately forces a hard, concrete question: fair how? Equal selection rates across genders? Or equal accuracy across genders? As we just saw, Helios can't have both, so it has to choose one, justify the choice, and document it. That's the moment a principle stops being a poster and becomes governance. Every principle, when it meets a real system, forces a decision exactly like this. To recap, principles are the positive mirror of the harms. The world converges on about 8: fairness, transparency, explainability, accountability, human oversight, robustness and safety, privacy, and contestability, anchored by the OECD principles and the UNESCO recommendation. Fairness, crucially, is a justified choice, not a default. And the real work is bridging the principles to practice gap. Next, in Module 4, we make these principles mandatory, the laws and regulations that turn should into must.